you see somebody like yourself versus Rich Redmond versus Sam Four, who's now, I guess she's a James Beard Award winner.
That's amazing.
Which is badass.
Yeah,
She's been on the show as well.
Yeah.
Like, you see those three different people and what you guys do, and it's like, at the end of the day, we're all just humans.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we get caught up in our own life and we think that, like, oh no, what I do is so completely different and far removed from what that person does. And it's like, no,
not really.
They all have the same issues.
Yep.
They might be different at a different level. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're all people. And that's why that, like you talk about Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, it's like, that's why a message like his resonates so well and across generations, because it is pretty high level. You know, there's not a lot of tactical in there.
No.
But it's more like high level philosophical thinking.
That's kind of the draw for me. That aspect of his message and delivery is and I think just with anybody, is the philosophy is what I'm drawn to. You know, the technical aspects is never something that I'm really going to focus on. Maybe it's just my, squirrel brain, but it's I leave the technical to the technical people. And I'm a big proponent of, filling the seat in the right way. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, then people are, left to excel in their own path. I have a team of people surrounding me that are incredible at what they do, and I could do what they do, but I can't do it as well as they can, and in the time frame that they can do it. For instance, in the real estate world, there's, the people facing side of the business, which is my strong suit. The paperwork part of the business, forget about it. I'm thumbs, and I don't want to be a part of it. So I delegate or outsource or, promote somebody from within to take on that role. And then I promote them for others who are, more like-minded and like me, because it will help their business excel. It will help their life be easier. It will help them achieve, work-life balance, or, have more time with your kids, or whatever it is. But people wear many hats until they can afford to pay other people, right, to wear the hat that they don't like the most. But, there's lots of different philosophies and trains of thoughts on how real estate is supposed to be practiced. It's all bullshit. I mean, it's like you have to literally develop it to fit your life and fit your needs. And the way that it works is consistency. And the way that it works is the big box brokerage has this philosophy. And this is how you do it, and don't deviate from it because it's been done before. We're kind of the antithesis of that. We think that you can adapt, you can adopt a certain style from somebody. It's all been done, but really, when you get down to it, does it serve your life? If you don't want to work on Sundays, don't work on Sundays. If you don't want to make cold calls, don't make cold calls. But you have to remind people and tell people that you're in this business, that you're a local, that helps, and that you have their best interest in mind. We have a philosophy, or a repetitive saying, mantra, whatever you want to call it, is relationships over transactions. Every damn time relationships over transactions will win. For longevity, it'll win for, client satisfaction. You get to sleep a little bit better at night. So there's a lot of different things. Like, I'll give an example. I was at a larger company prior to my role here now. I sat down with the team leader, and he said, "You had a good year. How much did you do?" I said, "I did 7 million in volume." He said, "That's great. How do we get you to 10?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really care. Like, it'd be cool. Like, that'd be great. But like, I look back on my year and I sold 24 houses and I helped 24 families find what they wanted. I followed up with them. I was consistent. I was reliable. And now all those 24 people are going to tell everybody they know that I did right by them. And for us, that's how we feel like it works better. Now, the downside of transactions is if you have a goal set of $10 million in volume and you're going to do anything you can to get that $10 million in volumes, what are you sacrificing?
Yeah. Yeah. Your own sanity.
Yeah.
Your time.
Yeah.
You. And then also, the client.
That's right.
And their needs and what they really want.
So what if you get an inspection report that's a mile long and you're like, oh no, we can fix that, or this is that or the other? I'm trying to listen at that point and say like, hey, here's the price, here's the cost, here's what they're willing to do. Mm-hmm. Are you okay with it? And then I have to remove myself from the outcome emotionally. And if it takes me another 2 weeks to find them a house, another 2 months to find them, so be it. Because they're protected and the fiduciary responsibility lives on. So yeah, that's kind of where we go.
Where does that drive from? I have a feeling I know where it comes from, but where's the drive from a big box kind of place, if you will? Let's get you 10 million. Yeah, why? Yeah. Why do they care?
Oh, well, numbers are very impressive and they market well. They look to always be number one. That's a big thing for people. And I think it's a personality thing, especially in the industry. People love to be number one. I like to fight for my agents who want to be number one, and they, closed a commercial deal. But commercial deals don't count in your when you get that trophy. Yeah, well, they do with us. So, so it does matter to people, and we do like to provide recognition and trophies and all that different kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, there's a human element to this that we can't forego, right? It's like numbers are cool. It's a, what do you call them? It's a vanity number, but if you look back at your list of clients that you did a good job for and you did right by them, that's the trophy, right? And then the referral to you is the financial benefit. So that's how you feed everybody. So
yeah, it seems like a mentality like that is more like you get more regular drips of like the trophy effect, right?
Yeah.
Because you're living every day, doing it on your schedule, how you want, with the right people, doing it in a way that like makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Which is the same feeling you would have gotten 12 months later with a one-time trophy, right? But you're hating your life the whole journey there.
Well, and it's retention, and it is, you have a client for life now, and people don't stay in their homes for 30 years like they used to. They stay in their homes for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. Life change happens. They move, they upgrade or downsize or get a basement or move to a school district or do these different things. And this is a long game. This is not something that's, fly by night. So if you do go out and seek the transaction first, you're always seeking new clientele, which is a rat race that I don't want to run. I don't suggest any of my agents run it. It's a lonely road out there.
What's like the biggest thing that you see other brokerages do that you're like, we will never do that?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good question. There are several good brokerages in Lexington. I interviewed every single one of them. I think honestly, like, I don't know if this is a very succinct answer, but I would say that they take anybody. And it's irregardless. Like, let's say that, like, so I have an office of 50 people and Eli has an office of 120, and then Georgetown has 20, and then all this stuff. So we all kind of work together. But if I were to add 50 more agents at this moment in time, would I be prepared for it? No. So, your services fall off, your attention to somebody who has a problem, is less than ideal. So let's say that 15 new agents want to get their real estate license. That's great. Turnover and everything is a big part of this business. There's not a whole lot of people that survive this industry. So let's say that 4 of them actually end up having a career in real estate out of those 15. The other 11 are taking a lot of your time away from people who are producing and actually need your help. And that's not to say let's not give them a fair shake, but we're not a recruiting organization. We are kind of a attraction rather than promotion sort of brokerage. Hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. And if it fits with you and you fit with us, then that's cool. But we don't take on just anybody. And I think that that's a good mentality to hold. There are several other brokerages in Lexington that operate that same way, and I have a lot of respect for them in that regard. So,
yeah, real estate always feels kind of like photography and videography at the beginning of COVID, where people they get laid off, fired, whatever, and they're like, I need a new something. Yeah. I need to be more control. And they're like, oh, well, a house sells itself, right? Like the brokerage is going to give me like a packet and be like, hey, here's how you market this. Yeah. And they think it's going to be easy. Yeah. It's like, no, it's all relationships. And I guess it's probably where the high turnover comes from. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, for sure. I what I do see, I see a lot of people that have success in this industry are obviously, former life in sales or some sort of client-facing customer service position. Teachers, firemen, police officers, waiters and waitresses. I mean, it's incredible. And I think for waiters, here's why, is because they can deal with a fire. They can, if you have a bad table and they're just rude and, all this kind of stuff, like, that they're going to leave and you can hold yourself together. And I think it's this like training that obviously we know, like, everybody should go work in a kitchen. Everybody should go work in food service, because you will get shit on and people will treat you like you're less than. And it builds something up inside of you where it's like, I don't ever have to be that person. And I can, now what I can do is I can really work hard for the people who respect me and give me, this opportunity to earn a living. Mm-hmm. But yeah, some of the waiters that, like, I'll say Patrick Doyle, earned his rite of passage with Malone's, right? It feels like everybody kind of goes and works at Malone's at some point in their high school and college career. And he was rookie of the year his first year. He sold 17 houses. He knows literally everyone. He's never met a stranger. And I believe that experience in the restaurant business gave him a lot of that confidence. Mm-hmm. And he's our top producer now. So
when you go to interview somebody to maybe come into lifestyle, is that one of the things you ask? Like,
I definitely do.
And obviously you ask, like, what have you done before, all that kind of stuff. But do you look at that and go like, hey, you're in the restaurant industry before? Like, that means something to me.
Most certainly.
Because I've got a friend,
yes,
Taylor Desson, who's been on here before, but his dad was the proprietor of Outback in like one of the first like 2 or 3 in the country when it first opened. This is in South Carolina. And Taylor, basically growing up in a restaurant family, understood what that looked like to be not only the guy running the place, but at every level he's worked too. Yeah. And so that's what he does. He's a recruiter. And so he'll look at people's resume and be like, hey, if you've been in the hospitality, especially restaurant space, like, that means something. You're coming to the top.
It does. I think it's a fraternity or what have you that survives past its, time. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, you can relate to somebody. So what do we do when we talk to clients? We talk about, they call it the Ford method, right? It's family, occupation, recreational, and dreams. And if you, have an interview or somebody says, hey, I want to get into real estate. Well, you have a conversation with them. And what does that look like? Well, I want to know who they are as a person. What they've done as far as like success rate, I can't understand if they were the top producer at their firm doing something that I don't understand. But if they can tell me that they had an experience where they helped somebody, or they can tell me that they had an experience where they solved a problem, to me, that will translate well to this industry, because a lot of what we do is soothe fears, put out fires, remain an emotional, neutral, I don't know what the right word is, but I can't let my emotions get attached to a transaction. Mm-hmm. I have to be the adult in the room, if you will. And the more I can do that, and the more I can be a problem solver, I think that's the level of success that will last in this industry. So
that totally makes sense. And it seems like a lot of times people take either direction, the emotionalist or the emotional part, and they go heavy-handed in either direction. It's like, it's got to be a delicate balance, because you want to have empathy and compassion for your clients to make sure they're getting what they need, because every client's journey is going to be different, right?
It will be.
Your budgets and location, like literally every aspect is going to be different. But you still, to your point, there's a moment where you have to be a little emotionless.
I got you. Right? I'm going to get us through this.
Yeah.
And you will see something new every single time, every single transaction. It might feel the same, but I've had transactions that have had a lot of emotional attachment to it, right? Like, I had a guy, it was hard for him to leave his house. He lived there for 40 years. He's raised his kids there. Yes, he's going to move closer to his children and grandchildren, and his wife is excited to live in the one level ranch. But this is a life event that's happening to people where they're aging into a different, era. And what that man did was he walked away from the same living room that he had Christmas in for 40 years. The same backyard that his kids used to play in, and he's going to someplace new. So like, if I can understand that, it's going to be to my benefit if there's ever a conversation between us that gives me the power of empathy or power of, hey, let's just give this guy a minute, Mm-hmm. He didn't sign the form. Like, all right, we got 14 days. He doesn't need to sign the form right now. Let's give him a minute, let's get it moving. But like, hey, how you doing? Isn't that funny? Like, you can actually ask a client how they're doing in this business. Can't do that in a retail setting. It'd be kind of weird, right? You go into Best Buy and
well, hey. What's funny though is it used to not be weird. You used to walk in, hey, how's it going?
Yep.
Is there anything I can do to help you? And now everybody is just like, don't talk to me, don't bother me. I know where you are. I'll come find you when I need you.
Actually, that's where I got my start in sales, was at Singular Wireless.
Are they still around?
No, I
didn't think so.
It was they changed so many times. Singular was a great company, but they were bought by AT&T. And so I was into 2004 to the beginning of 2007, and I had great leaders there, great mentors there, great bosses there, and they taught me the sales process. Here's what it is: that somebody comes in, you meet them, you greet them, you build rapport, you ask them questions, you seek out the problem that they have or the solution that they need, you provide them options, and then you close the deal. And it's a captive market, really, because like, hey, I need a phone coming in here. Let me get this Motorola Razr. It's like, it wasn't that hard, but it was a lot more pleasant, and it was a lot easier to close someone if you built that rapport from the foundation. And so I do try to teach that. I do try to implement it in my daily practice. And it's served me well for a long time. There's, I'll age myself real quick. It's, I started at Singular with the Motorola Razr. I had a BlackBerry. It was my favorite thing. And then I left right before the first iPhone came out. So it's been a different, set of evolution since, we're on 14, iPhone 14. So, wow.
That's wild. And somehow Siri is progressively getting worse. I don't know how.
Yeah, she is.
I feel like the first iteration was great.
But she's still listening.
Yeah. My phone's like, huh?
Yeah.
Man, that's funny. So why how did you get from that in like 2007 when the iPhone came out? So how did you get from there to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a really long, strange trip. You want to hear it?
Sure.
All right, don't. It's been an incredible ride for the last, I guess, 14 years or whatever it is.
God, that's so crazy. 14 years.
14 years from, and you know, BlackBerry always said like, hey, no, touch screens won't work. Well, there they went. But yeah, so I ended up moving to Cincinnati, and I took a job with a financial firm in downtown, 14th floor of the Elm Street building, the Inquirer building, on Elm Street. And I hated it. I was selling financial products and insurance products, and it was just not who I was. I wore a suit and a tie because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. Well, I was depressed. I was unfulfilled. I was longing and looking for something that had purpose. And so what did I do? I said, well, I'll go back to school, you know, because that always works, right? And I ended up doing that, and I did fairly well, but it still wasn't the right answer. So there was a moment in my life where I bought a Jeep. I packed up everything I had in it. I kissed my parents goodbye. You know, missed a couple weddings of my friends and stuff like that. But I had to leave. I had to do something different with my life. And I moved to Utah. I moved to Park City, Utah.
How'd you end up there?
Yeah. Well,
Utah seems like it's really taking off now, like Salt Lake.
Yeah.
That area.
It is a gorgeous place. It has a way about it that is definitely touristy, but there's also a local feel to it that's kind of endearing. I had a friend who worked there on a golf course, and he said, "Hey, have you ever caddied?" And I was like, "No, I've been playing golf since I was old enough to walk, and love-hate relationship with the game." But I was like, "Yeah, I could do that," So I drive all the way out to Park City. I go on like a practice round with the boss, and he was like, "Yeah, you're good. You can start tomorrow morning." So, okay. So I show up to Red Ledges Golf Course. It's a Jack Nicklaus signature at 7,000 feet of elevation. Amazing. Red rocks everywhere. It's gorgeous. And I see this guy, 55, 60-year-old single player. He says, "You're my caddy." He's like, hop in the cart. He said, "Andrew, I don't want you to do anything. Don't give me any advice. Don't, rake any bunkers. Don't do anything. Just drive the cart and talk to me." And I was like, okay. I don't know. And this guy was jamming out.
That just feels weird to hear that.
It was strange,
Okay.
And I didn't know anything about the course at this time. I mean, a little bit because it's a golf course. I know what I'm doing. But like, I didn't know where the brakes were and where the traps were and all this different kind of stuff. So we go through, and it was like the best experience ever. He listened to, MC Hammer on his, iPod Shuffle or whatever it was back then. And at the end of the round, it took 2 hours. That's how fast we zipped around. He paid me $250, and he's like, "Can you be here tomorrow morning?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we did it again. And instead of paying me $250, he paid me $500. And so I made $750 in 4 hours worth of work, and I was like, I could do this. This is going to be my career from here on out. And it turns out that it was for the next almost 10 years.
So I have to ask, what was the value of you driving him around and not doing anything?
I have no idea.
You said he was by himself. So is it one of those, like, I don't have anybody to talk to, so I guess I'm going to pay this dude to chill?
You know what? I have had that. This wasn't that case. This was like he was with his wife on vacation. She was shopping in Park City. He was from Texas. He was in the mineral business, So more money
Everybody is down there, I think.
More money than sense. Probably from Midland. I don't recall it. But it's he didn't want to be anywhere but the golf course, and I think he just needed a friend. And I don't know if here's what the easy part was. It's like almost always, like Your typical golfer is 50 to 60 years old. It's a men-driven sport, obviously. So you have buddies trips and things like that. But I was generally the age of all of their sons. So it was like they had their son with them out there, and they, I don't know, maybe saw something in me that they saw in their son or their youth, or I don't know. But it's the dynamic is incredible because you are meeting somebody for the first time. You're going to spend generally 4 to 5 hours with them, sometimes more, up to 10 hours a day. And depending upon if you're riding in a cart or walking, if you're walking, you're going to walk like 15 miles. And so not many people do that at their home course. They're generally in their nice little cart and they got their Diet Coke and, at Bandon.
Diet Coke.
Yeah. 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 Well, I've seen some stuff out there too. So I'll tell you what. But yeah, it was a very short season in Utah. The winter comes early. The mountains stay snow-capped. But I went to TPC Sawgrass, Florida, Ponte Vedra Beach, Jacksonville. And it was not my cup of tea. It was a beautiful golf course, and I liked a lot of the people there. But man, the bugs and the sun and the heat, and it was just like, man,
it's not Park City.
Not Park City, you know? And, but interestingly enough, it changed the course of my life because, I went out and played golf one day on an off day, and I had a random, addition to the foursome. A bunch of us were playing. We had somebody drop out. Somebody else showed up, and, Chip Brook was his name. And he said, "Where are you going to go in the summer?" And that was the question everybody asked each other because nobody caddies in Florida in the summer. It's too hot. A lot of people went to Whistling Straits. A lot of people went to, Bethpage Black. A lot of people went to, where else did they go? I don't know, a bunch of courses up north, wherever it gets nicer. And I said, you know what? I'm thinking about going to Bandon Dunes. And he was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll tell my dad you're coming." And I was like, "What?" And his dad was the caddy master at Bandon Dunes. And he watched me you could tell he was watching me. Watched me play 3 or 4 holes. Could tell that I knew what I was doing. And he told me later on in life that he called his dad and was like, "Hey, I got somebody coming out there. They're going to be fine. They'll be good." And so I packed up my car again and drove all the way across the country, 2,660 some miles. And when I stepped foot in Oregon, it was a transformational experience. Everything is green. The topography and the roads and the elevation change, the deciduous forest, the coast. It's just incredible.
They have redwoods.
Redwoods
right?
meet the Pacific. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the ocean out there it's not the beach in, Myrtle Beach. It's those are waves.
Yeah.
And I got out there and I played 18 holes on Bandon Dunes, which was the first course built. And I fell in love with the place. So I'm never leaving. I stayed there as long as I could. I stayed there as long as my body would allow me to caddy at the level I wanted to. So
what are some of the physical things that you're talking about with that? I mean, obviously you're moving bags and clubs and running around and
yeah, that's a good question. So here's what Bandon Dunes is. It's the #1 golf resort in North America. They do about 200,000 rounds a year, and they have 5 courses. They're getting ready to add a 6th. There are no carts. It is just caddies. There's about 400 of us. And what they do is it feels like you're going to go back in time. There's no ridiculously ostentatious clubhouse. There's no waterfalls behind the par 3. It is sand dunes. And they curate the ground to minimalist. They don't move dirt. And so you're walking up and down through these sand dunes and burns and all these different kinds of things. In typical, you're carrying 2 bags twice a day. Each shoulder, and you're probably got about 20 to 30 pounds on each shoulder. Now, the golf courses are about 4.8 to 5.2 miles if you hit it straight. No one hits it straight.
Right.
Right. They hit it left and right and, funny side and this way and all that. And so you're going.
So you're really just going left and right, left and right, and left and right the whole
absolutely.
time. Yeah.
And, but here's what you're doing too, is that like, I'm not an average golfer. Actually, I'm much better than average. In my mind, I'm an average golfer. I'll shoot an 79, 80, 81, 82, something like that. If I shoot 85 or lower, I'm like, yeah, okay, I did all right. But the average golfer shoots 100. And now you've put the average golfer on a very difficult golf course that they've never seen before. Their jaws are on the floor because it's so gorgeous and the ocean's just everywhere and there's bald eagles flying and it's nuts. And they want to have an experience. The less they think, the better. The more they can have fun with their friends, the better. But they go left, they go right. And if you can get them to laugh about it and just be okay, like, this is an experience. I don't need to set the course record. I don't need to play my best ever. I would say that generally everyone there was very, very happy. It wasn't a corporate outing. They didn't have to be there. They chose to be there. They chose to travel, thousands of miles. Mm-hmm. The people from New York could go to Ireland faster than they can get to Oregon. And so there was a spiritual and mythical property, that place, that it changed my life. It really did.
Obviously, it's on your hat.
It is. I still wear it to this day. And funny enough, I had to get a new wardrobe when I left there because that's all I had.
Does it rain a lot there too? Kind of like
it does.
Seattle-ish vibe?
It does. It's a interesting type of rain. Say May through October is a dry season. There's not much rain at all. And then October through April, it can be 65 and sunny with no wind. It feels like San Diego. Or it can be a 100-mile-per-hour wind, 50-mile-per-hour gust, like craziness. Like
perfect golf weather.
Yeah, and people playing it too. You'd be surprised. I'll show you some videos. But yeah, that's when it rains, it pours, and it could stay there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, wild. So how do you go from Oregon to here?
Well, I met a girl. That's how that goes.
All right. Well, we know the rest. No. Kentucky girl?
No, she's an Oregon girl, and my wife Rachel, she had moved back to Oregon. She lived in DC, but she had moved back to be closer to her family. And we met on Match.com of all places. I told her actually on our first date that she was my first internet date. She said that was not the right thing to say, but
apparently it was.
It was, but we obviously we met, we fell in love, we got married, and my back was giving out, man. I was too old to do this. I saw these caddies that were 50 still doing it, and they're popping candy and they're hobbling around. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to live that life.
What is popping candy, man?
Oh, she was, they call it caddy candy. So like painkillers, pain pills, stuff like that.
I didn't know like how.
Yeah, I didn't know how PG.
How sugary we're talking. How strong we're talking. Okay.
Well,
you can say whatever.
Oregon is a very medicinal state, and so, so like, but it's crazy. So like, this is the most profound or impactful thing that happened to me. May 1st, 2013, I decided to quit drinking. And it has changed my life. So I just recently celebrated 10 years of sobriety, which I never thought that I would do.
I was going to say 2 days ago.
Well, let me tell you, I had
congrats.
Thank you so much. And, interestingly enough, so my wife has never seen me drunk. And I never got in trouble. I never did anything crazy, but I was so depressed that I was just pouring this alcohol down my throat that I was like, there's got to be something better. There's got to be a better life. And for me, I removed that from my life, and every day since then, my life has got inherently better. You know, I have a wife, I have a career, I have the, you know, respect of my family and friends. I have 3 beautiful children who drive me insane, but they're so gorgeous and they give me purpose. I would have none of that. Yeah, I would not. I would still be a caddy, hobbling around, you know, popping pills to get through the pain, stuff like that. So when I say that Oregon, Bandon specifically, have a spiritual and mythical property to it, that's what I mean. It was interesting because I was 31 was my first full year as a sober person. And I went to a meeting after being drunk for 4 days, and Bandon's a small town. It's 3,000 people. And there's all these, like, I was the youngest person in the room by 30 years. There's retired loggers, commercial fishermen, big burly old dudes with big long white beards. And it was like I was surrounded by 20 grandpas. It was the coolest thing ever, man, because like they were like, oh, young person, like, let's talk. And I'm like, yeah, okay, here's all my problems. But it was really cool, man. And I truly feel like that point in my life, like the opportunity was given to me to experience that change, and I took it. And I'm glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I want to say some other stuff too. I don't know if that's like, okay, if I don't want to direct the whole thing here.
I'm just here hanging. Yeah, that's all we're doing.
So let me tell you. So, so I went to Florida at the end of 2012, beginning of 2013, to open up a resort called Stream Song. And so a lot of the caddies from Bandon went there to help them start their program. It was like, yeah, Florida, cool, sunshine. We're going to go down there, do this thing. It'll be January through April. So it'll be, you know, easy. It won't be too hot. And the courses are gorgeous. And here we go. But I was at a point in my life where I was just drinking heavily, pouring liquor down my throat every day. And I still worked. I still functioned, you know. However, I was incredibly depressed. And so I left Florida into April, go home to Kentucky, you know, say hi to my parents for 2 weeks and all my friends that are, you know, either in Lexington or Cincinnati. And then I decided that I'm going to take a different road home. And I called Oregon home at that point. So I drove up north. I drove through Minneapolis, St. Paul, and over into North Dakota and through Montana. And I was a mess. I was here's what I'll say. I was a minor inconvenience away from suicide. And that's how fragile my situation was at that point. So I'm driving, and I stayed in Minneapolis, and then I couldn't find a hotel for the second night. It takes about 4 days to drive across the country if you just pedal it down. But I had, you know, $30,000 in cash in my pocket, but all my credit cards were maxed out because of poor financial decisions. And I couldn't get a hotel. And I was like, come on, man. Like, okay, I'll just keep driving. What if I just pay for it up front? No, you have to have a credit card and security, all this kind of stuff. Okay. So I'm driving in Montana, North Dakota. It's called the Enchanted Highway. And there's all these, it's Route 90, Highway 90, whatever it is. But there's all these like sculptures on the side of the road. So like the sun's setting and I'm seeing all these like artsy sculptures. They're massive. And it's kind of getting weird, you know, like I'm seeing some cool stuff, but like now the sun's gone and I'm in the middle of nowhere and I still have to drive because I can't get a hotel room. If I pull over on the side of the road, can I fall asleep? Because it's kind of, you know, scary out here. And so between that and where I ended up, I decided that if I took my seatbelt off and I veered into oncoming traffic, I could stop everything, ease the pain, kill myself, and my mother wouldn't know that I had done it. She would just have grieved because I was in a car accident. And I didn't know if I was okay with that or not, but I took my seatbelt off and, it's pitch black outside. I'm driving and I said, as soon as this divider gets lifted in between the two lanes, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to find the next semi I can find and just go over. And for whatever reason, I turned the radio on and I started listening to this show, which I later found out was in syndication. It's called Coast to Coast AM, and it is a UFO conspiracy theory show. And I was hooked. I thought this thing was the most interesting.
So you got distracted listening to UFO.
Yes. I got distracted.
I'm laughing.
Yeah.
But obviously, super heavy situation. But that is like the least likely thing I thought you were going to say.
So
okay.
They're Looney Tunes like calling in, and they're like, "Yeah, I saw this," and the host, I forget his name, but he kind of like eggs it on, and he has a little bit of conspiracy theories, but like the people that call in are bananas. And I was just laughing out loud and I'm crying at these people. And, eventually my mood was obviously lightened. Eventually the show goes off the air and I'm still driving. My seatbelt's still off and that divider's long gone. And I was like, I didn't want to kill myself anymore. And so I pulled over into Bozeman is where it ended up being. And the person at the front desk didn't give a shit that I had cash. They didn't care that I didn't have a card. And I slept it off. I drove the rest of the way back to Bandon the following day. I spent the next 4 days drunk. And I'm working one early morning round on Bandon trails. I get to the 11th tee. I have my buddy who's carrying 2 bags. I'm carrying 2 bags. And he says, "You look like shit." And I was like, "I feel like shit." And he said, "I haven't drank since Thanksgiving." And I was like, "What? Like, you can do that?" Like, I didn't know that was an option, I grew up in an Irish Catholic community where we drank for everything. Celebrations, depressions, all this different kind of stuff. And I finished out the day, and with my severe hangover, headache, and all that, I went to my first meeting. And I never drank since. And it has been a beautiful life since then. And I think back to it a lot because, let's say that would have happened and I would have made the choice to do one thing or another. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have what I have. I wouldn't have had the impact on the lives of my children. My parents would be devastated. My wife would have never met her, and all these different kinds of things. So I think back to that, and if there's a message in this to anybody, just wait a day. Like if you're sad or depressed or you think like life. I mean, look at what we just went through. Like the last 3 years has been fucking crazy. And if I can give a message to anybody, just give it a minute. Just go eat a big old meal and take a nap.
And turn the radio on.
Turn the radio on, man.
You're right.
Listen, something's out there, man. And I don't know if it's UFOs or the benevolent force of God or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me, but there's an energy, right? There's an energy out there that if we pay attention to it, I think that it tells us kind of everything's going to be okay, And
so what was it about, man, I got about 30,000 questions and we don't have that kind of time, but mental health and suicide awareness and all of this is rising, which is good as far as like being a talking point that people are open to speaking about. Thank you for sharing that story, by the way.
Thanks for letting
super
me.
heavy.
I appreciate it.
Do you feel like the more conversations that happen will actually we're pushing for these conversations to make mental health a priority in regular conversation.
Yeah.
Is that good?
It is good.
And will it actually, do you think, help to bring people from the brink?
It will.
And actually level them out, if that makes sense.
1,000%, because talk therapy is the answer. Talk therapy is the answer. I feel better right now for having said it. And if you can, we talked about it earlier, relating to someone is how you get the good stuff. And if you're interviewing somebody with the family, occupation, recreation, dreams, I can take something that I guarantee you, something that they say, I will have had a similar experience. And if you can, you know, people call it recovering out loud, or people call it, you know, sharing their story or whatever it is. But if I can be somebody that others could come to, if there was ever a situation like that, I could help them. Ultimately, not everybody can be helped, right? We have a suicide, you know, statistic for, you know, actual people who have completed the task. But suicide is a irrational decision. It is a fleeting, not a pervasive thought. Yes, we have like depression, and like deep-seated depression exists.
So you think driving down that highway, you just like randomly had a very quick thought of, I'm going to take the seatbelt off and do this thing?
Yep.
Like how long are you talking? Like a 30-second conversation in your head? A 30-minute?
Probably 30 minutes.
Yeah. And in 30 minutes, was there even a thought of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't? Or was it just like constantly thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this?
I was trying to hype myself up. And I was okay with it eventually. It was a decision that had been made. And who knows what would have happened if I was paying attention. Luckily, my train of thought is not great. But here's where I was. I was in a weakened state, right? You know, you pour depressants down your throat for long enough, you become fragile. And if I was not in a hungover state, I would have probably not ever had that thought. But what it allowed me to do was think. I had negative self-talk. I still do. I think everybody does at some point, and to some extent, I think it serves a purpose for, you know, self-improvement. But my negative talk was, you're a fucking failure. Look at the hand that you've been given and look what you've done with it. And there's no recovering from it.
What did you see success as being?
Oh, the suit and tie. Lots of
money.
Then, yeah.
This was after Cincinnati and doing the financial stuff, right?
Yep. So
you succeeded, but you walked away and you saw that as a failure? Succeeded in terms of you wore the suit, right?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I will say that there was a spiritual awakening within myself before I got sober. And that was that, you know, everything that I had wanted to be, I had now made it. I tried to mold myself into the antithesis of just that. And we have strong memories. You know, it's like when I came home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, all my buddies that had the suit and tie jobs, they were like, how's Bandon? How's the golf course? That's fucking awesome. Like, it's so cool that you're out there. And I was like, hell yeah, it is. You know?
Yeah.
Like, like I'm not doing something normal. I'm doing something different. But as we, know, alcoholism is a progressive disease. So it goes from being a soothing, force to a problem to a real problem. So, but I don't know, man, it was, I didn't start to think that I wasn't a failure until I got sober. And,
so meetings were the most helpful towards that, or
sponsor. I talked to him on the first as well. And it was great. He's like 76 years old and he's retired. He lives in Nevada and this gorgeous place. And interestingly enough. He was the starter at multiple different courses at Bandon.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that he was in the program until I went there. And then I saw him. I was like, oh, hey, Jim from work. You know,
Yeah.
Cool. What's up? So it just naturally happened that he would sponsor me. But he had a career in real estate in Las Vegas for 20 years.
Interesting.
And as I was talking to him in those brief 15 minutes before our group tees off, I'm like, you were in real estate. Like, did you like it? He's like, you'd love it. You'd be great at it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, 7 years later, I started. So it's crazy.
So how did you go from sobriety, like getting sober, to actually getting the real estate?
Yeah. So,
Like I said, I got a million other questions, but
I know
we'll keep moving along.
No. So, okay. So, I was a broken down caddy. My wife wasn't fulfilled with her job. She said, hey, let's move. I said, okay. It really, really hurt to leave Oregon just because I loved it.
What was she doing?
So my wife has a PhD in informational and organizational psychology. She worked as a consultant in DC for Booz Allen Hamilton. And she would go into the office of the New York Steel Labor Union and solve problems in office culture, or so in the FDA, she worked for them for some period of time. She'd go into the office. She's like, what's wrong? The guy's like, well, they fired so-and-so and this other person. And then I've been doing their work for 3 years and they haven't given me a raise. And for whatever reason, they listen to her, but not him. So she champions the worker. It's crazy.
It's like a classroom, right? Like the other teacher comes in, says the same thing. You go, I get it.
Oh, yeah. Because it's I guess a different outside viewpoint maybe. But
yeah.
Anyways, she was working as an HR, some form of HR at the local hospital. Because in Coos Bay, there's two jobs. You work at the hospital or you work at the golf course. And or you're a professional in some other right. But there's not much else to do there. The logging companies, the mill, they've all closed or been extremely minimized. So anyways, we didn't like where we were in life. We just gotten married. We were ready for a new adventure. So we moved to Washington, D.C. So we moved from a town of 3,000 people to a population of 6 million. And it was not for me.
And why'd you choose D.C.?
We chose D.C. because I felt like I could get a job anywhere, like just doing something random. Okay. And she could continue her career path more easily in that market. Well, what I found out was that, I went from being a caddy with, an associate's degree to the most educated populace in the world. And I was like, let's try to find a job. So I worked at Congressional Country Club as a caddy. It wasn't the same, paid the bills. But as soon as Rachel got a job at UK Healthcare. She said, should I take it? And I said, yes, let's get the hell out of here. I mean, it was just...
Why? Was it the vibe of just like being in the political center of the world, or...
It was traffic. It was... Okay. I mean, I paid $34 to park one day when we went for brunch. It was like, how is this sustainable? We paid $2,800 for a 1-bedroom. Yeah. It was crazy. It's worse now. But the DC vibe, the culture, the art, the food, oh my God. I mean, just incredible. So the experience was there. And I actually did a lot of hiking. I did a lot of soul searching. I did a lot of we only stayed there for 7 months. We broke a lease, lost a lot of money. But we came back here in October of 2017. And when we were looking to buy our first house, I really, really enjoyed it. And then I said, well, how much did that real estate agent make? And they said, $8,000. $8,000? Like, what? I can do that. And so I called the real estate agent. I said, who do I contact at your brokerage?
So,
and that's how
to highlight, that sounds just like what I talked about with when COVID happened and people got laid off and whatever. They're like, I'm going to go do real estate because I heard dollars and I feel like I have a skill set.
100%.
So, I think that's good though, because then you can even talk about what does it actually take to really be successful? Because there are plenty of people that are people Oh, hey, lights. That have people skills and that sort of thing. Where's real success come from?
Grit. You really don't know like what success lies around the corner. And if you give up, I've seen people give up. So the managing broker, Karen Saltzman, started the same day that I did. And her and I are the only two remaining out of like 15, 16 people, whatever, of our class that remain in the industry. And we're in the middle of our sixth year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's grit. When you look at somebody like Karen, if you could replicate the model for Don't Quit, she'd be it. Husband left her, 2 kids, single mom, started cleaning Airbnbs and substitute teaching for $50 a day at her school to survive. She went to a divorce class that was held at a real estate brokerage. The real estate agent told her not to sell her house, but instead get a real estate license. She did. And now she's the broker of our Lifestyle National office. Wow. She closed $12 million last year.
That's wild.
Yeah, she doesn't quit.
And nobody's asking her, how do we get you to 20 million?
Yeah, nobody, never. Because she doesn't care. You know why? Because she goes to her son's baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
And she got remarried, and she gets to go visit her parents in Mississippi, and, you know, life.
That's great.
And so
I've often thought about like why it always seems like in business, there's this drive to, okay, what's the next level?
Yeah.
And I mean, at some point there's got to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm okay. Good. Like where we're at, like, why do we have to actually have more agents? Why do we really have to do, you know, and I get the competition and like, there's certain dynamics there, but like,
yeah,
why can't we be okay sometimes?
We can. Yeah. I think, well, society, advertising, capitalism, I don't know, like there's always something. You're right. And, I don't know, man, like I think that the most of the times that I've been either happy or serene or fulfilled, it's because I've been grateful with what I have, not because I'm looking to get something more. And I think that people need a creative outlet. They need more time in the sun. They need more family. They need more community. And I do feel like, you know, bringing it back to like an open door policy on like, can I talk to this person about my struggles? Yes, you can. I think that that's the way that we do it. Because the stuff on the news and the stuff in the, not a newspaper anymore, but it's a lot of it's fake. It's not, I don't want to say fake news, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, sensationalized, and it's for profit, and it's, you know, but like if I go, one of my mentors early on, Josh Barrett, you know, him and I are completely different people on, you know, politically, or, you know, I don't know I mean, he's a religious guy. I'm not really a religious guy. But we worked together, and we worked together very, very well because we saw each other as not identified as this, you know, tribe. We were of the same mindset in, hey, let's do this. Let's build this business. And that's what we did. So I think that the more and more we're open to other people, you know, entering our lives, whether or not they're politically aligned with our very perfect, you know, it's just, it becomes easier.
Do you feel like, I had this conversation at lunch yesterday with actually a real estate agent.
Yeah.
It was Stephen Davis. I don't know if you know,
I know
Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stephen, we were talking because we always get in these like solving the world's problems kind of conversations for 2 hours. And he was like, man, I just don't know, like, if we're in a good place as a country. Like, how do you come back from some of the things? And I'm like, I feel like we're in a great spot only because it's putting certain conversations on the table that we either didn't want to have, didn't have a mechanism to have them. Didn't feel like we needed to have them, but like we're at least putting the conversations on the table now, whether it's what do you believe about, certain, I'm not going to bring things up, but that's know what I mean?
Yeah. Sensitive and emotional topics.
And because of the nature of the world pre-internet, you could live sort of in your vacuum, get your news, your information, your sort of experience outside of what you see for yourself.
Yeah.
You could curate that in a way that you felt protected. But now it's like, it's easy to feel like things are bad because of the real-time nature of news and just culture, and the frequency of it, because everybody wants to cover it as well. And so it's easy to see something and think like, wow, this is bad.
Yeah.
But I think if you keep perspective and kind of zoom out a little bit, it's like, this is good because there's transparency that comes on the back end.
And measures for progress.
I mean, I'll say like, whether it's what's going on with this Supreme Court right now and people going, wait, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
And so it's causing a lot of friction between individuals, but I think it's good because at the end of that comes clarity and just where are we as a group,
Well, and when we say it is, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
And change is pain. And sometimes it's painful to see the injustice or I don't think there's anything that bothers me more than seeing somebody being picked on, it just, sets me off. And I can't champion the entire world, but, bringing awareness to injustice, bringing awareness to, hey, that's not right. I didn't know that was happening. That's when the movement starts. That's when the campaign for a change starts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is incredibly powerful and a good benefit of information every time, all the time. Like Twitter, I don't know. Twitter's crazy. It's like I'd doom scroll it, but at the same time, like Twitter's saved nations before. It's like you can have like people say, hey, we're getting killed over here, and we wouldn't have known about it otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's good and bad. It's crazy.
Some would say it almost ruined nations too.
It has. I guarantee you. Yeah.
So it's wild. What do they say? Sunshine is the best disinfectant, right? Like bringing that transparency, bringing things forward where it's not happening in a back room.
Light up the darkness.
And, I think he calls it a question ego.
Yeah.
Because, it's going to be like, wait, not somebody I knew. They wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, here's X, Y, and Z facts. And I had no idea. And you have to have that moment, if we're going to actually move forward, of being able to relinquish that ego for a moment and be like, I didn't know, and be able to change your affiliation with whatever that thing is. Ego
is funny, man. People claim to have had ego death or from whatever transformational experience that they've had, but it's your ego. In my theory is that it's a constant battle. It's good partly to have an ego, right? But the battle within ourselves, if we win that, then we are a better light to the world. The less ego I have, the more empathy I can show to the world, the more gratefulness I can show to the world. Other people are going to see it, man. And if I can be the best example of, justice or peace or serenity, then maybe others will see that too. But I struggle too, but if you have that device in your hand all day, every day, you're going to see some wild shit. You really, really will. And a lot of it is I don't know that we were meant to process those emotions at such a rapid pace.
Yeah. Well, it can definitely be a whiplash kind of situation, right?
Yep.
Well, and now, I mean, you bring that up. It's like my wife and I, we have a 5.5-year-old and a 7-month-old, but
nice.
He's going to be going to kindergarten in the fall.
Yeah.
So you see everything go. She's a school teacher.
Yeah. Oh.
So like she knows the drama from the inside.
Yeah.
Just as much from, the teacher perspective, but also the parent perspective of, wait, so now we're having to talk like, again, not to go down certain topics, but you get pulled in certain things are like now political. It's like, are we going to have to out a kid because of the rules and the laws that are passed now? Is that not a thing? The like books getting banned and curriculum changes and like all of that stuff. It's just like, do we expose him and put him in those situations? Now you got all these kids that are even first in kindergarten with cell phones in their book bag.
That's crazy.
A lot of times because the parents think, well, my kid might get shot today.
Yeah.
And we need a phone.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the kid opens up the phone and, can't blame them. They're 7 years old. They're going to open it up and they're going to see things and have access to the internet. A lot of parents don't put the protections in place, So now it's a first grader, kindergartner exposed to things that 18-year-olds shouldn't be exposed to, but the world is right there. And, my wife is hearing other students talk about things that they've never, like pre-cell phones.
Yeah, never happened.
It was never a conversation.
How old are you?
35.
Okay, I'm 40. So almost, like similar, existing during the evolution of
Pre
technology.
And post. Yeah.
I had dial-up and, I had Hotmail and AOL and all that stuff. And, but it's the evolution, everything's going to get faster. The AI thing, that's a whole nother podcast, I'm sure. Maybe several, but the ability to see what's real,
and to trust what's real versus not.
It's becoming more of a, I don't want to say talent, but it's becoming more of a necessity to be able to look at something, use a healthy level of discernment to whether it's real or not, and then proceed, and then perhaps proceed with caution. So,
I think it was a Facebook group maybe yesterday that I saw, and I think it was email marketing or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know when I would have joined this, but apparently I'm in this group because now Facebook is like just pushing groups.
They do it all.
And the post was somebody asking the question of like, what was it? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm conflating two different things. It's funny. We talked about Gary Vaynerchuk because I think it was I don't really consume any of his stuff anymore for a number of reasons, but for some reason, one of his posts was at the top of my feed, which just seemed random and out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it and it was a carousel post and it was him giving ideas of how to use ChatGPT. And it was about email. That's what I was thinking about for email marketers. Here's how you could use ChatGPT. And it was like how to write the email and, different prompts that you can give it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what in the world? Like, why you're not even an email marketer at this point? Like, why in the world why is this a thing? Anyway, it's wild where we're at right now. I know videographers in particular have been worried because they're like, wait, we have, what's Adobe's thing? Firefly something? I forget what it is.
Is it basically scare me?
You could go in there and say like, I want, I don't know, an English cottage, whatever, with this kind of sky and kids walking down the sidewalk with blonde hair and blue eyes and trees and this, and like, it just goes boop and here it is. And it could be a video. And, and you're like, wait, no, I need that to be a red shirt. And then you say like, change it to a red shirt. And now it's a red shirt. But like you look at it and it's still really atrocious and poorly done. But the AI is going to continue to evolve and improve.
Well, it's going to be a power shift. It's going to be probably an incredible power shift. because the people that are in power now probably don't understand it enough to combat it or regulate it. So, obviously somebody will rise to the top of and I saw the Google executive that retired because he was worked on AI for 30 years. And now he's like, oh shit, what have I done?
Like 30 years ago, he didn't know that this would happen.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Like, what do you think you're doing here?
Well, here was his justification was that I try to solace myself because if I wouldn't have done it, somebody else would. And he said, I know that that's a pitiful excuse, but I guess he's now sounding the alarm. So like, okay. Yeah. And then, but
it's like being the arsonist in the neighborhood and be like, hey, I'm letting everybody know that the neighborhood's on fire.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing?
It's scary. It's dangerous. And when you talk about your children being in school, there adds another level of, great concern and fear to it. I don't know what, somebody said that the other day to me. They were like, when are you going to have the conversation about, I'm like, I have no idea. So where's the support group for that? Or where's the, what's mandated by the school versus what's, does your teacher have an affiliation or a ideology that who knows? But the craziness needs to stop. And I'm fearful that the technology without regulation will not allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. What if there's a period, right, of chaos and then it leads to, okay. I'm rambling.
Are you going to start sounding like the people that called that radio show?
Maybe. But here's the thing, right? It's like when you
Terminator walking down your road.
Have you heard symbiosis? Have you ever?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like the idea or AI taking over, like you're in my job will lead to a depressive, state of, let's say 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then after that is utopia, right? Because nobody has to do anything. All they have to do is just be.
Yeah.
And that's when
we talked about that, I think, on the last episode.
Then
you got automation doing the physical. You got AI doing the
and now
mental part.
Now all you have to do is philosophize.
Yeah.
So anyways, I digress and I'm sorry.
No, but I think it's right. I think it's good. I mean, I think it's always like whenever we get a new play toy, we kind of push it to the brink. Certain people push it to the brink.
Yeah.
And then, not the others, let's say, will be the rational ones to be like, no. Here's how we're going to pull this back.
Yeah. Faith in humanity.
And then,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we can have all these like conversations in the news and whatever that make it appear that we're all totally different and against each other. But at the end of the day, we're all actually way closer together than we think. And so, especially when we talk about AI and the robots coming, we're going to have to band together pretty quickly.
I love it.
But yeah, man, I could talk all day because like I said, we covered a lot of ground and I really appreciate you opening up and sharing some of that stuff because the more that people hear it and it becomes part of normal conversation.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is a challenge still is hearing heavy conversations.
Yeah.
Because people are like, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to hear that. That's going to bring me down.
Yeah.
So I think, but still we got to hear it. And I think it's important that you're sharing.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to be comfortable enough to do it. And I felt like, I'm going to make a Facebook post on May 1st. And I was like, that's not really my style. And I was like, well, I want to do something. And this just happened to coincide. And then, I really do. I'm grateful that you let me do this, and talk about it.